right there. Okay, she's right there. Sammy's here. This is gonna be my face. For the
What are you recording on?
This is the only recording I know how to do, but it's fine. I don't care. Anyway, so
What's the first thing we have to look at?
Alright, it says we need to discuss the following. The first question is, are you bilingual or multilingual? No.
I've taken 2 years of Spanish here at Western and 2 years of French in high school. So no.
At a toddler level.
No, I'm not. I'm like a handful of Dutch/German words.
Yeah,
wow.
But not even, like, literally just, like, pick 5 random words.
No, like 2 words.
Foods. I know some foods, mostly.
Like pascuchin.
Yeah, I'm definitely not bilingual or multilingual.
Yeah.
Schnitzel. I mean, everyone knows schnitzel.
So none of us are.
No, we've established. How old were you when you began to learn?
Are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. We're recording.
We were just
Yeah.
messing around.
No,
And
we're-
Sammy's on the phone right here.
Gotcha.
Sammy, are you bilingual?
Oh, so Sammy's bilingual.
Korean?
What?
In Korean?
Yes, in Korean.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Because her mom's
One of
Korean.
us.
So
great.
bilingual, does that mean fluent in another language? Or does that mean you were raised with two?
I think it's raised.
It's
Like, I would never say
It's
I'm
a
bilingual.
loose word.
Yeah.
It's kind of self-defined. Like, do you think you can communicate enough to consider yourself bilingual? You might have been bilingual and not as much so now.
I think
It's
it was,
self-identified.
I think of it like
You don't have to be birthed to be
I've taken
bilingual.
like 5 years of Spanish and that, but I don't know. It's like slipping away. So
Yeah.
I think if you think you're fluent, then like that's how
People
I would
tend to
know.
underestimate their language skills.
Yeah.
Okay.
How old were you when you began to learn your second or more languages?
Sammy, that question's for you.
Yeah, Sammy.
I kind of say I started learning it from a young age, but I didn't really start speaking it fluently until a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Why?
Korean.
Korean. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
My mom speaks mostly Korean to us, but just like living in America, I mostly only spoke English, so I wasn't great at speaking Korean. I just was able to understand it. And then, like,
Pretty common.
when I was
Okay.
young, I didn't really have an interest in learning Korean,
That's cool.
so until recently, that's why.
So the next question is, how often do you use your languages, when and where?
Sounds like at home.
I only mostly use it with my mom.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the positive effects of bi or multilingualism? I guess this is for everybody.
Yeah. Positive effects.
They had that video that was like, improves your ability to make decisions.
Yeah.
It fights
yeah.
off
Oh, yeah.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Basically,
Stuff like
like because they're growing up, constantly having to decide based on their environment which language they should speak. They're used to like suppressing and then using another part of their brain all the time.
Yeah.
So they're not. It's not necessarily like it. In part, works like the brain's muscle. I guess you could put it.
No, the brain's a muscle.
Yeah.
And
You're
then,
good.
but it also is just like increases their awareness of the environment, so
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
able to like
I
make
think
decisions real fast.
I think it's positive just because that as well, but just because it like opens so many doors.
Yeah, job
Yeah.
opportunities and people you can communicate with.
Yeah.
Places you can go.
Yeah.
What video was it that showed how like it forms your brain differently? Like each language, it showed like the babies listening
Oh,
to,
yeah.
and like they were saying like your
Mandarin?
brain
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like trained,
When they can distinguish the
Yeah.
phonemes.
and it was
Something
kind of
so-
interesting to
I've
me.
seen that video
Yeah.
before, actually.
Oh, I
Was
had
it
it.
a TED Talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow. So to me, it was kind of like it like actually like trains your brain to think in a different way, hear different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's positive, is you have two ways of understanding the world.
Yeah.
And most people only have one. So that's like really cool. You know. So go over your answers to the two activities: analyze learner language and analyzing learner questions. So I have to open that.
Where is it? A learner character. Are we doing the survey?
Do you want to do the language one first?
I
Learner's
have to scroll.
characteristics and where's the other one?
Analyze
Oh,
learners' questions. So do you want to do analyze
second
learners' questions first?
there's
Fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'm opening questions.
I'm being an idiot. Give me a sec. I was in the wrong section. Are you doing analyze learner's language?
Learner's question.
Yeah.
Learner's questions. Okay.
Okay, let me see what I did.
So
This was really hard.
it was
Yeah.
hard. We should get the answers down below so we can all
Oh,
just kind of
really?
like put what we.
Oh, yeah.
Sammy, we're looking at the assignment where you had to pick which stage the sentence was in. So it'd be like a sentence of like stage
Is the
1
room his
questions
room?
or stage 5 questions or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at learner 1. Where's my answers? Oh, it's right here. So on the first one, I said it was 4. Where is he going
I
and
don't
what
see
is
my
he
own
saying?
answers.
They're like down below.
Oh, you
Yeah,
answered.
down below.
Okay.
I was
yeah.
confused too.
And then,
That one.
And then,
One word
how
is
do you know if they're right or wrong?
It's.
I think it
she
lets
has
you
the
answer
key,
again.
like down at the bottom. It says like learner
Oh,
1.
okay.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh, this is kind of a weird to compare.
And I
Yeah, it's
totally,
hard to
like,
compare
did not.
1, 4, and 5 are
questions-
stage 5 questions.
So what did everybody put
1,
for like
4, and
1 through
5?
5?
Um,
So I put 4, 4, 4, and then I put 2.
I put
Oh.
5, 3, 6, 4, 5.
Answer number 5. I said it was a 3. I had
For
no
which
idea.
one?
I don't know. Number 5. I was just
Number
like,
5 I said was 4, so it was close.
I don't know why I said 3.
You're right, because there's stage 5 questions.
This is hard because you have to like see what you answered, and then you have to scroll up to see what the question was, and then you have to scroll
Yeah,
to the
it's
bottom
kind
to
of
see
confusing.
what the correct answer is.
So,
I thought it was a touchscreen.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's-
I was like,
question.
I
don't
had a
know if
really
answered.
hard
My
time,
roommate did
like,
it too. She has a touch screen.
Understanding.
I wish
Yeah,
it was a touch screen.
I didn't do very well in this. I look back and I'm
No.
like, oh, that doesn't
Me
make
neither.
sense. So questions 1, 4, and 5 are stage 5.
Okay, 1, 4, and
1,
5. I definitely
4.
missed some of those.
I only missed question 5.
What is he
and I did
thinking?
4.
I got
So you
5.
should explain that to us, because I got that totally wrong.
Yeah.
All right, so honestly, I didn't know. It was kind of just like instinctual. What does this
Yeah.
kind of seem like? So 1, well, 1 they answered for us. 4, what is he thinking? So it's inverted, so you know it's at least a stage 4.
Mm-hmm.
And why did I say it was a 5?
Main
and
verb?
What
then the
is he
WH
thinking?
question.
Yeah, and it's a WH question. It's inverted,
Auxiliary.
and it has an auxiliary verb.
And then a main verb, right?
Yeah.
And did it have a main verb?
What is he thinking?
No, that's just it. Oh, what is he thinking? Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, so that's why it's 5.
thinking. So that's why it's 5.
Okay.
So like, what is the boy doing? What is so? I was kind of comparing the
Oh,
complexities of the
And
sentences.
stage 4 is just like yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more
Okay.
simple.
Yeah, that was
That
simple.
makes
And then 5, I was 1 level off. I said it was a 4.
I was so off.
I was really.
I was confused
It's
by the way it was framed.
Yeah, it's
I'm not good enough.
like it's not
at
it's not
analyzing.
a well-formed question. The girl, what do you? What does she do? What is she
The
doing?
girl, what do
It is
you? What
some-
does she
what
do?
is-
But
Oh,
if
yeah.
you look at
Oh,
It's like
I
they were
think he's like
self-correcting.
slowly self-correcting. I get it now.
oh,
It's like the
I
girl.
was just
what
looking at like the
do
end.
you?
I was
What
like, what
does
is
she
she
do?
doing?
What
That seems
is
like a
she
4,
doing?
kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I just
I got it now. I never
It's
read
like-
it that way.
I know.
Yeah.
I was just like,
You're like,
Yeah, I was like,
Find this.
I do that in Spanish. Sometimes you like start a sentence. You're like, crap. I needed like todavia earlier in that sentence. You have to like start over.
Yeah.
You can't just like tack it on.
Or you change the conjugation of the word.
Yeah,
and
and
then,
I'm like, dang.
I feel so bad for my Spanish professors. 'Cause I just like self-correct all the time. I'm like, wait, no. Like, this is what.
No, wait. I said 2 people.
Yeah, and they're like,
Sammy, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm just not. It's like really clear what you guys are saying.
Oh. Well, right now we're talking about. Do you remember that question in the survey that said, "The girl, what do you? What does she do? What is she doing?" It's like that long one that's like building. No.
I have the survey up.
Oh, okay.
okay, prepared.
You guys were laughing at me. So that one we're talking about is actually like a stage 5 because the person was self-correcting. So we were just.
Oh.
I said it was a 3 because I was scared when I saw it because it looked confusing. But just so you heard what we were saying.
I didn't get hypoallergenic contact this time, so I'm like,
Yeah. Oh no.
I get the opposite. I get dry eyes.
Oh,
Especially allergies are kicking in.
same. I've been
And
having them all day.
My nose and throat are wet, and my eyes are dry.
My throat's like on fire, so I don't know.
So learner 2.
Sorry.
Away from the eye.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
tired.
What question are we on?
Are they buying some things?
I think you said that was a.
Some
Isn't that a 4?
Oh,
Because
learner
are
2.
they buying
It's
things?
question 6 and 9 could be stage 4 questions.
Good. 6 and 9. I got something right.
6 and 9.
But I didn't know about 7 and 8 because I think.
7
Wait,
and
are
8
6 and 9 are
are
what?
3. Wait,
Oh, they're 3.
6 and 9 are
Oh,
4.
is they bought.
Okay, I got
bought
6
prices.
right, not 4.
7 and
Or
8
6,
are
not 9.
3.
That
10
makes
is
sense.
2. That's still
10
10
is
is
2.
2.
Yeah.
Oh, I got most
And
of
it
those
is necktie.
right or close
Yeah.
to right.
Okay, I got 10 right.
I, got
I
10
actually
right.
did good on learner
There was no
2.
ones.
Yeah, there's
But
no-
learner
wait,
3.
I didn't put any ones.
Well, there weren't any. I put
Are there any shuttle, space shuttle inside? I got low ones for leurner 3. I got low numbers.
I really messed up question
Sure,
9.
learner
My
3.
other ones were pretty on.
learner 3,
Question 9.
stage 4.
Is this
stage 2,
perfume
stage
or?
5.
I thought that it
Oh,
sounded
really?
good.
Stage
Like, is
5?
this perfume is a pretty well formed
Question
sentence,
14.
and then they like explained that they didn't know. So I thought that was
What are
like I thought that was a high level.
That sentence is me.
I
I don't know.
Like this is something. If I heard a native speaker say this, I wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it was a high level. We tail off like this and then explain ourselves.
That's what I was.
Which one?
It's
What
number
it
9.
sounds like natural.
Is this perfume or I don't know?
Oh, yeah.
She said it was 4, but I thought it was 6 because it seems so native-like.
That's something that I would say.
Is
Like,
this
if I were to
perfume?
start
I would
a-
do that.
I don't know.
Or you, I do it on purpose. Like you like hint your room. You're like, you gonna clean up those dishes?
I guess she's just saying this. I guess she's just saying
Not
the
maybe
stage
not
of the
quite like
question.
that. It's kind of jerky, but
Because we ask questions that are low stage, so I don't think it's fluency. It's because I'll look and be like, that's a chair. I'll say something like in a stage 1 level.
And there was
Like
the
4
question
children? Like I could ask a question like that. I might say that in a conversation. So I just mean like stages I don't think mean fluency. It's just the stage of the question maybe. Because I've done what's that? I say what's that all the time. And that's stage 1.
Oh,
What's
that's true.
You just went down on
Yeah, it's like that doesn't mean I'm at a stage 1 level. Yeah, I know. Or maybe.
you need more sophisticated.
Yikes. So
case study students.
These words are too sophisticated.
yeah,
Monotonous.
that's funny.
Okay.
All right. So should we move on to the next one?
Learners 3.
The next. This one was the hard one.
Which one? The whole section.
Sammy. We're looking at the analyze learners language. This is the one where
I
you
did
had 2
almost all
learners
threes.
and they had paragraphs
the
and you had to
different-
compare the paragraphs.
Oh, we're on the
They
other
wrote-
one now?
Question.
So we're
14.
yeah.
Okay,
Are we
I
on-
messed up. I was doing really well in learner 1
Yeah.
and 2 and learner 3.
We're looking
was
at both.
rough.
Yeah.
Learner 3, yeah, I got those wrong.
Dude, I did so
I
bad
didn't
on
get a
this
single
too.
one
It
right.
was
I
so
put-
hard.
Okay, 14, I did get that one.
I didn't get a single one in level learner
How do
3
you know
right.
if you're wrong or right? Where's the answer?
They're
It
way at the
should-
bottom.
yeah, it should be
all the
like
way at the
that.
what? Oh no, yours looks different than mine. I think you have to go not from assignments but from module, and that has these answers.
Oh,
and
I
then you-
had those. I'm looking at the other one. Analyze learners language.
Oh,
Are we not on
We're
that
on
one
it.
yet?
oh, I thought we were doing learner 3.
Okay, are we do you want to keep going? We can keep
No,
going.
we can
Oh,
go.
okay.
Okay, I don't.
No, let's do
I think
learner
we all
3.
discussed that we did it wrong.
Yes, and
I
it was
thought we
hard.
discussed
It was
learner
hard.
3.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me go to the other thing.
Okay, yeah, so this was with the French.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're looking at the paragraphs. To me, the main problem I saw that kept me from understanding was verb tenses and subject-verb agreement. I think that the verb issues are what keep me from knowing the order, because tenses are like the order of events, and verb-subject agreement tells you who's doing it. So to me, that's what fuzzes it. Is it's like who's doing what action when.
That's a good point. When I was going through it, I didn't think that because sometimes you can kind of like fill it in.
Yeah, sometimes.
Like his horse eat a flower. Like I know he's saying his horse eats flower. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to even second guess that.
Yeah.
For me, the sentences, the syntax,
That
and the
was
punctuation was
difficult.
like, what is happening? Like it'll be like 3 really, really short. Oh no. 3 really
Do we
short.
lose connection?
Although,
We're
like,
calling her back.
3 really short ones and then a run-on, and it's just so hard to follow, like, what's connected to what.
I said like the part where you have 3 robbers in the mountain who sees Santa Claus with a king of glazes. Is that kind of glasses?
Where are you looking? Oh, with a king of glaze.
I can't answer the phone right now, so leave a message and I'll call you back.
I think it's probably glasses. Most of the weird things weren't too bad. That one was tricky. I feel like I didn't analyze these.
Wait, sorry, I wasn't listening.
permitted,
I think it's glasses.
is
It's
like,
glasses, like kind of glasses that it permitted us to see at a long distance.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because that part got me. I was like, king of glazes?
See, that's why I didn't mention that. I was like, there's spelling mistakes, but I can almost always figure out, like, flower is the wrong flower.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
and
know
even-
he's
You
saying
can kind of
flower.
figure it out.
And even like every robbers have a horse. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand what that
Has a
means.
horse.
You know,
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
robber
yeah.
has a horse. That's not gonna like get in the way of me knowing what it's saying.
I think it's like the.
I mean,
he has a hat. His horse eats flour. It's just like they're so separated, and then he'll have like a run-on, and you don't know how things connect to each other.
there's no complex.
but if you
I said
change
that
the
better in
verbs,
this
I feel
one.
like you would understand it like almost perfectly, and there'd just be like minor errors.
Maybe.
Like during a sunny day, a cowboy go in the desert with his horse. If you said during a sunny day, a cowboy goes, you know,
To the
I
desert.
in the
also
desert
think-
with his horse. I feel like that makes it so
Hello?
much clearer.
Yeah.
Like just changing the
Sorry, I
verb,
think my
or
Wi-Fi cut out 'cause I
Oh,
lost
you're good.
like he had
we're
a
just
big
talking
hat
about
instead of
the
he has a
learner
big hat.
language
It's like sounds
activity
almost
still.
fluent to me.
Yeah,
Like he had a big hat.
I think
His horse ate a flower.
Well, I think another thing is
I
like,
don't know.
the nouns, because they said like pocket of surprises, and I was like, wait, what? So like bag of toys, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
like
And,
flower
that
spelled like flower.
Like, yeah, I think flower, like in that case, like a homonym. So if you heard it, you'd be like, oh, like, you know.
Yeah.
But like, if you're reading it and you're like Santa's pocket of surprises, you're like, what?
Pocket
and then
of
I was
surprises
like, bag
is
of
kinda-
toys.
yeah.
And then the same.
Yeah.
I think
so
the
maybe
same one
I
happened.
didn't really talk about vocab, but that's a good point.
Yeah,
in
like
my
I
answer.
think there were. I liked what you said though about like syntax, because definitely like they go in the way of Santa Claus, not Santa Claus, but his pocket of surprises. I have no idea like what that's trying to say.
It's
personally.
he's
Yeah, pocket of surprises is pretty confusing.
Well, just like so, are they go in the way? They go in the way of Santa Claus, not Santa Claus, but his pocket of surprises.
It makes
Yeah.
sense that they would do that. Like he wouldn't know the correct word, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's kind of like a
Yeah.
pocket of presents."
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're confusing. You know, like pocket, like.
Sammy, did you have
I
any
do that too.
input on
Yeah, I go
the
around. I'm like, I don't know that word. It's
paragraphs
just
for the
Let's
two
just
learners
go
that you
around it.
noticed?
Avoid
Like
it.
mistakes wise
That's
or
what I do
anything?
in Spanish all the time.
Which one?
Analyze learner's language. It was the French learner and then the Chinese learner. We're just comparing mistakes and stuff, and we were wondering if you had anything you noticed or wanted to share.
Oh, sorry, comparing
Yeah, the first two questions were just analyzing the paragraph separately, and then the first one was like, what are the similarities? The fourth one was what are
Is
the
writing
differences?
one
They
more
definitely
than the
both
French
use
one?
like present and past tense, like just continuously, which like didn't really make that much sense.
What was
Like,
that?
They said
Hello?
like Santa Claus ride a one-horse open sleigh to scent present for children. So it's like
I don't
Mhm.
like you're all making good points, and as I go
Yeah.
through it, I'm like, oh, that would have helped.
I
so
said
much.
that I
But, like,
noticed
as I was
verb
reading it, I was
tenses.
just noticing
Yeah,
the
and,
syntax. Maybe because I've been looking
subject
at
verb
syntax
agreement
for my
were
case
the
study,
main
but
mistakes.
it's
I
like,
think that made
it's
it
hard
harder
to,
to
kind of
understand for
like
both.
a native speaker.
That's what I said.
Like, I mean,
and
I know what it's
I
saying.
know it's kind of
like-
silly, but like even when things aren't punctuated correctly, and then like nothing's capitalized, and there's no no connectors like subordinators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes it so hard to follow the story through.
Yeah,
You're like, okay, so we're talking about this. Oh, now we're talking about that. Wait,
Well,
what happened? How did
yeah.
those?
because they're describing the same story, right? But I noticed
Yeah.
like in this one they start out with the cowboy, and then in
Yeah.
the second one they're like they meet a cowboy in the saloon. So it's like definitely
Yeah, it was like
The
different.
stories are hard to follow.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. I mean,
I
the
would
like, I can
sentences
make it out.
individually
yeah.
Yeah.
make sense,
yeah, but the story doesn't.
but the
make sense
story
to me.
doesn't flow.
Do you notice any differences between the two? Like one
Um,
person did a different kind of mistakes. What I noticed
Yeah.
is the Chinese first language adult. He separated
Yeah.
one word into two
Oh.
words a lot of times. He said instead of saying nobody, he said no body.
I said that
Oh.
he had
And
a lot more of like his
what was the
language
other one?
seemed more simplistic.
Oh, and
that's
cowboy.
because-
Cowboy, he said separated it, and I
Yeah.
didn't notice that in the French learner wasn't separating syllables, and I wondered if that had anything to do with like how in Chinese how they focus on syllables like that or something. I was wondering. I just thought it was interesting. Okay, could be wrong.
Kind of the same thing you were talking about in the first one, more like not matching the subject with the verb, and in the first one, and then in the second one, there was like a lot of comma splices. They have saloon, they go to drink, and just there's no Chinese connectors, and it's not as like the first one's hard to follow, but for different reasons. There's only one long sentence. This one's hard to follow because
I feel like the Chinese
connectors.
I feel like the Chinese language.
What's happening when?
The Chinese language person to me had like more simplistic language.
The longer you work.
And I think it's because they weren't in like an academic setting. Like I don't know if that contributes at all, but like
I like how the Chinese language.
Oh no, did it?
This year Christmas comes soon.
Are you still there, Sammy?
Let's start out with a hook.
I think we're losing signal.
Yeah. It's hard. There are some weird spots on that train.
Yeah. I didn't realize we should have maybe rescheduled or something.
And it's hard because you can't really be
I thought half of the trains have Wi-Fi and half of them don't, so I thought she was gonna like Skype.
Well, I don't think we could meet any other time anyway, right? Because we couldn't meet.
Okay, I'll put you back over
We tried
by the
it.
computer. Okay.
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 Did we finish that one?
Okay, so we did what we needed to do with those, but now number 3, it's discuss how first and second language learning are similar and how they are different.
Wait, where's that?
Number 3.
She's back on the.
Oh, number
yeah,
discussion
sorry.
board.
Yeah, sorry.
Where are you looking?
You're like, what?
It's just an overhead person talking.
That's not Sammy.
You
okay?
Okay.
I want to see Sammy.
So,
Train robbers.
Spanish if you want to see.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Okay, discuss how first and second language learning are similar and how they are different. In particular, discuss developmental sequences. Do you think we can apply the concepts from first language learning as we teach adults a second language? Why not? That's a lot.
Yeah, didn't she talk about this in the video? She said
Yes.
She had like
This was like her whole lecture.
Yeah.
And our
Okay,
discussion
yeah.
was-
In a picture, discuss developmental sequences. We can apply the concepts from first language. Teach adults.
I mean, like this.
Yeah. Well, they're like interspersed between these activities.
Yeah.
I was going through that.
I think first language learning is about listening a lot more because there's a silent period, but second language learning is about producing instantly.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I agree.
I think that's part of the reason that like sometimes learning a second language is so difficult because I know in Spanish, like with the subjunctive, I try to think about it in English.
Oh yeah.
And she's just like, don't do that. And I'm like, I can't not do that. Like, I think in English, you know? And when you're learning a first language, it's like you don't have anything to compare it
exactly.
to.
So you're
So you don't
learning the
question
way
it.
of thinking, you're not translating.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
translating makes it hard, but
Yeah,
learning a new way of thinking, I mean, that sounds hard too, but
They tell you to
it's
like,
different though. I just
when
think
you're like learning terms, not to put like the English translation, but to put like a picture so you associate with the thing. I never did that. That was too hard for
I like
me.
to describe it in
Yeah.
Spanish.
But it's like a part of you wants to say yes, they're similar because they have like similar developing stages. But it's also like I think it was not her video, but it was like one of the TED Talks or something that was like, you know, the contexts are so different.
Yeah.
Like kids dedicate the first 5 years. Just cover the thing.
Who is that?
The first, it's the overhead announcement telling you you're.
I just
arriving.
didn't want it to talk here because then she wouldn't hear anything we were saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then I didn't.
Yeah. So
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So
There was a scary man that we heard.
Oh yeah, what's the overhead?
Just want to make sure you're okay. I'm just being weird. Sorry.
so like when you're a kid, you know, the thing said, you know, you dedicate your first 5 years to language learning.
Yeah.
And it's all you do, and it's what everyone around you helps you do, and like you'll never be in that context. And then there's the biology of like as an infant in that one video with the monitor being able to separate phonemes and the critical period around puberty.
yeah,
and
there's not a critical period for a second language. Like,
so
you can learn it whenever you want.
it's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You have to learn a first language to learn a second. I mean, that's obvious, but like,
Yeah.
you have to have that Yeah, I don't know.
I put in my discussion post, it was like, yes, there are overlapping similarities that we should take into account,
Yeah.
but I think they're more different than they are similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did she say in the video that you imitate in both to learn, or you don't?
You don't imitate
You don't
in either.
imitate. Okay.
It's not mainly imitation.
But I think the
Oh,
idea,
Skinner.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
too, like you have to take in the ideas of acquisition versus learning, and how like we acquire our first language and we learn our second. But the idea of like teaching a second language is you want acquisition to go with your learning. I know, suddenly the microphone's in my face. But like I just remember Trish talking about how you want it to be as much like acquisition as possible, and there's we were reading, I think it was the Parrish book, about how there are ways to make teaching a second language more like acquisition, and you have to do it by lowering the effective filter.
Yeah.
And, like
Yeah.
other strategies. That's something I can think of right now. But
Yeah, that's why people that go and actually live somewhere like that are immersed in the language, it's much easier because it's difficult to learn in an educational setting.
so maybe
Very difficult.
Yeah.
immersion-based learning is more similar to
Yeah.
learning a first language, because
Yeah.
you are
That's
learning
true.
all the time. Like you
That's
said,
true.
Yeah.
Like you cannot escape the environment
Yeah,
from which
Yeah.
you have to learn that language.
it's like you
Yeah.
have to learn it to survive. Like,
Totally.
like,
It wasn't discussed at all in this, but I believe it was in Trish's 420 class, maybe. And we watched a thing, and it says you need at least 25% input from the other language if you want to become like truly fluent. Not like
I remember
basics,
learning something,
but
but I don't remember the
like to
percentage.
just be able to easily interact. You need at least 25% input in the target language.
Oh man.
Like
That wasn't in this class at all. So
I'm actually
Susie,
surprised.
if
I
you're
would think it
listening
would
and
be
that's
higher.
wrong, I'm sorry.
for developmental
wasn't a class, though.
sequences,
I think that was
Yeah.
420.
for developmental sequences, she's talking about stage 1 through 6, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Is that
So-
question 4?
Stage 1 through
It's
6.
like part of 3.
Yeah.
Um,
So
Discuss
developmental
those.
sequences is. I
Oh,
know what
I
this
pulled-
is.
I pulled
Why
them
can't
up.
I think of it?
I typed those up in the while I was watching the lecture.
It's
Concepts from first languages.
what is it? Babbling or something?
I typed them up
um,
somewhere.
And then the second one is.
I have
It's
them down.
this-
I have them
I have them
Question
somewhere.
is the last one, isn't
babbling,
it?
one
Making
word
a
Oh, here we go.
question.
telegraphic phrases,
Complex
grammatical
questions
morphemes,
is the last
Yeah,
one.
complex.
Here we go.
negations.
1 to 3. Sorry.
No, you're
Babbling.
Wait,
Oh,
isn't it-
telegraphic phrases, grammatical morphemes.
Isn't it just on the
negation
analyze learning
And then I
question?
have one.
The developmental sequence. Oh wait, these are developmental.
I
sequence
guess you could
questions,
say like.
I
not
don't know.
just in general.
Oh, I have the question ones too. Rising intonation, declarative word, order, and rising intonation, fronting,
I guess-
inversion, and what? Negative
Mhm.
questions.
You kind of do
Correct me if I'm wrong.
babbling when you're doing pronunciation a little bit. And I meant like, okay, so not that people are babbling, but a baby is trying to pronounce the sounds. They're forming. They're like ba ba ba. You know, they're making noises. But when you're practicing, you're repeating the. So I don't mean they're babbling. What I'm trying to say is,
They're
I
working
think
on
the
their
baby's doing the
phonetics.
same thing as the adult. It might not sound exactly the same, but the idea is I'm
Same
practicing this sound.
Me,
Yeah.
like, walking
And
around
I'm
like,
trying to figure out, how to do it. So I think, in a sense, they both go through that
all I
phase.
can do.
Because I've
just
definitely
go
sat
to,
down
like,
trying to
Mexico.
learn Spanish and practicing the R sound with somebody, whatever.
Probably
But I
some
don't know.
cultural thing. I'm not
Yeah.
offending people.
Yeah, like when you're helping people pronounce a sound, and
Yeah.
they're practicing it.
Yeah, like with
Easily distracted.
my case study student today, like it was like we had to practice the same sound over and over and over
Uh-huh.
again for her to get it. And I was like, okay, so it is kind of like babbling because it doesn't make any sense at all what you're saying, and if somebody were to walk by, they'd just be like,
Yeah, totally.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So what else for 3 are we do? Do you think we can apply the concepts from first language learning as we teach adults a second language? I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know.
Apply concept. I mean, definitely a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's very different experiences, like we just talked about. But
Would it be more like acquisition if we did that?
It's difficult
Yeah.
because
Does
you
anyone
learn
You learn
one
differently.
tense as you go. Like I don't know. It's just difficult.
I think the silent period, in a sense, needs to be mimicked a little. Like, you do need to listen a little bit more.
But you don't get that at all. Like, your first week in a language learning classroom, like the first day.
Hola, me llamo.
Yeah, you
learn
definitely
how to
don't. But in
introduce
some
yourself. You learn
classrooms
the
you do.
numbers.
Like, remember in 420 how we learned about giving students a silent period a little bit, and how she would tell stories and hold things and.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
all
I
I was
remember, like,
I
the
was trying.
citron,
Yeah.
lapin.
There we go, like that. And so it was kind of like.
That
In
French
a
is kicking
sense, she
in.
was creating a silent period where they were just listening, and she would say nod, yes, and she would say stand up, sit down, and they would do it, and they were hearing it, but they weren't really producing.
Yeah.
And it seemed successful. They learned all that in a single class.
We had to teach those too.
Yeah, we
if you
did.
remember that. I did mine on
So,
sunglasses.
I guess.
That's actually a thing in just normal teaching. Like my mom.
Mhm.
That's it.
Italian, maybe? No.
We went French, and then I did Spanish. Then you're like Italian, just
Oh my gosh.
Fusion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, my mom is a teacher. She's been a teacher for almost 30 years, and she uses TPR lessons as well, total physical response, like to teach her students certain concepts, and it's like super helpful no matter what you're learning.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like babies don't only learn languages; they learn how to do things, and they do it like they learn how to like cut an orange. I mean, that's not. Why was
Orange over this infant.
Do it for me.
Yeah.
Cut this orange for me, please. But like everything they learn is like total physical response before they perform it
And
themselves.
context helps so much. I'm just
Yeah.
like thinking, okay, table, but like
Yeah.
having a table in front of you, being like, okay, I'm
Connecting
in this
the word with the
situation.
object is
I think
best.
of it like commands, like grab me that book, like grab me, like go get this, go get that, like
I mean-
things that don't happen in like a classroom. You know, like
It's
I taught a lesson to a bunch of Burmese speakers, and they didn't speak any English, and we made pancakes.
oh, that's
It
cool.
was so much
Oh,
fun,
that's
and they
fun.
like loved it, and it was a TPR lesson. I didn't know what TPR was, but
Mhm.
it was super fun. And then they would just be like, "Give me the bowl," and then they'd pass it back and forth, and
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
"Give me
helpful.
this." But it was also fun because we got to eat pancakes and,
That's
like,
fun.
That's so fun.
yeah, I reviewed your blog this week. I
oh,
liked it, Magdalena.
You already did your reviews?
Yeah, I did them today.
I
was
took
like,
one the day
Nice.
after
I
I
haven't
submitted
got
mine,
mine
and it still
yet.
wasn't like up. The
I was camping, so
Ooh,
Oh,
no
fun.
Wi-Fi,
Oh,
concrete in a cabin in the woods.
that's so fun.
really nice.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. It was a nice weekend
Relaxing.
too.
I know it was awesome. Yeah,
It's
I
been so nice.
didn't want to come back.
Oh, I'm sure. I would be crying drive
I
home.
say
Like,
that every time I go on vacation. I'm like, it's going to be so amazing. I'm going to feel refreshed and ready to learn.
Exactly.
And then you're like, nah, I'll just stay here. I'm
We were-
enjoying myself.
What if we just drove our cars into the river right now?
I know, it's like, we could do it. So, number 4, how could teachers use the concept of interlanguage to aid instruction?
Oh, I think if you don't know a lot about a language, then
Yeah.
you can kind of guess a lot about a language by looking at interlanguage.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can see what the student is struggling with by seeing like okay, they got all of this. It's kind of like almost like looking at a grid where you have like all of the right things and all of the wrong things, and it's very clear to you because you're a native speaker what the wrong things are.
Hypothesis.
What'd you say?
The error analysis hypothesis.
Is that actually a thing? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought you were using big words.
No, they'll make you watch that lecture in a couple days.
Okay.
so head.
Oh. You're like,
Like,
just
I
wait,
actually-
young one. Yeah, young
No, I had to
whippersnapper.
research it for my topic anyway.
Oh no, Sammy.
No, I had to research it
Sammy,
for
she
my.
must just hate
She told
this.
me that I had
It's
to
like,
research the contrastive and the error analysis
Oh,
hypotheses.
okay. Okay, you're so wise.
I'm not.
So what?
Hello?
Those just happen to be like the 2 niche things she told me to
So sorry.
research for my
Okay.
case study.
I'm gonna put it back over
Okay.
here.
There.
She
is-
So
What does it mean for teaching that any morphological structures are learned in the same order?
That you should teach them in that
I'm
order.
confused by the
You
wording.
shouldn't.
what does it mean for
I have to
teaching
think
them
about
any
it. How could teachers use the content of language to aid instruction?
I
What does
think
it
she's saying like L1s are acquired in the same order as L2s. Like your
Oh.
morphological structures are learned in the same order.
No.
Is
Does
that
it mean
true?
does it mean that we teach English in the same way to everybody, no matter what their L1 is.
Oh.
Because the second
because
question
it's about
is,
interlanguage. That makes sense.
what interferes with all students learning L2 in the same order?
Oh,
So we should be
I
like,
didn't think
she's-
about that. So background.
So we should be like,
I mean, differences in languages.
Yeah, I
differences
never,
in
I never considered the
L1
differences in
words.
languages and we teach it one way every time.
That's why it's so nice to teach English in somebody's own country. Because you get to teach it in their context.
Yeah,
You get to, I mean, like,
personally?
they don't get immersion-based learning, but, like, you get to focus on one language.
Yeah, that is
definitely,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that because
it definitely means that certain people from like cultures that maybe they're not familiar with this way, of teaching, it makes it a lot harder, and they can feel like maybe a little left behind if it's clicking with one person more because it's their familiar background.
correct me if I'm wrong if you know, but I think we were talking about in my 401 class how like speakers of like if Chinese is the L1, like they tend to just like mistakenly say a lot of things in the present because like the verb tenses they don't really
have
the-
verb tense.
Yeah, exactly. So
At
like
all.
Yeah, I
think
heard
that
that.
that's
I was
kind of
like,
like it's like
I was talking to Naomi.
Naomi, yeah, she
Naomi.
was telling me about
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. They have no tenses.
yeah.
There's no tense.
That's so awesome.
There's
It
no
makes
verb
it easier for her.
conjugation.
Burmese is too.
Really?
So nice.
Yeah.
That's so like
I mean,
I
there's-
guess
That
it
would really change. Imagine learning English as a Chinese speaker
It would be
versus
like
a Spanish
crazy.
speaker.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very different. Spanish has lots of tenses.
It's a really abstract concept to learn too. Like you change the word based on the time.
Oh my gosh, that's so abstract. Okay,
No,
that's freaking
that's
me
how
out.
I feel in Spanish too. Like when you use the subjunctive, which is we
It
have
doesn't-
kind of in
yeah,
English,
it's
but
like
not really.
fading away.
Yeah, and
Oh wow.
like you have no idea. You're like, this is a thing. I didn't even know. Like I've never thought about this in
Yeah.
my life.
In some, I'm
Why
so
would my
sad.
emotions or my doubt
Well, yeah,
alter my
my
tense?
She was like,
Whoa,
no, make it sound
that's so
like when she
interesting.
has us translated. She's like, no, try to make it sound subjunctive in English. I'm like, what do you? Like, I can't
No.
do that.
Put
That
more
is
in.
so fascinating. I never-
It's crazy. You have to think about it in a different way. It's
There
really weird.
was a language, I forget what it was that I was learning about, and basically we have so we don't change the verb based on the object in the sense of like this is a square object.
Mhm.
So if I'm gonna grab it, my tense on grab is different because this is a square object versus if it was a round object. Isn't that so
What if you
interesting?
can't see?
Yeah.
Except it's like, so when you say like I want 3 hours, it's kind of like a little bit similar because it's like there's like a counting like qualifier that goes with each thing based on whether it's round or square or
Yeah,
small
yeah.
or flat.
I
or-
learned about that. It was all about the shape of the objects, and
Yeah.
it changed your
Totally
verb.
It's super
It was
weird.
so,
That's so intimidating.
interesting.
Legit.
It's really hard.
I
You
was
have
like
to-
looking at it like I was like my mind was tripping. We had all these different objects like heavy or round or straight or furry and like it was
the furry verb.
and they don't do it based on like time or anything that's like different for
It's
that.
just-
But
I believe
That's
in
insane.
Ket. I don't know if any of you have Ling or any of you Ling student. You're a Ling student. You've had Vita.
I was
Um,
in linguistics once.
Oh.
Had
Well,
linguistics
anyway, one of
201.
the Ling professors, amongst many other languages, speaks Ket, and which is I forget where it's from, but I believe they have to reorganize their sentence and like use different tenses on whether they're talking about like an animate or an inanimate object.
Oh,
that is so weird.
And if you, he told this story about he was trying to say like he fought off a dog while he was there with like a stick, like as a battering ram, and he ordered it incorrectly, and he said it backwards that he was using the dog to ram the stick, and they had to like stop and like explain that it had to be in this order
Oh, it's crazy.
Whoa.
and this tense, otherwise everything's just all
This is
off.
like I could just get lost on those kind of thoughts. I love
Sometimes
hearing about different languages.
Sometimes I'm like, why don't we do that? And sometimes I'm like, that seems unnecessarily complicated.
I know.
My favorite thing that I've ever learned that another language has that we don't is a we that distinguishes me and the person's with me, and me and people's not with me.
Oh,
So you say like,
shady.
oh, we're going to the store, and you're like,
that
we're
makes
going to the
sense.
store, and you're like, no, like me and my mom are going to the store later.
Oh,
that makes sense though.
Cool, though.
Like the we that's present,
Yeah.
or we like I have a group off campus and we do this.
I'm like, why
That
don't we
makes
have
sense.
that? I distinguish that all the time.
That makes sense.
So cool.
That's so cool.
That's
I
my
can
favorite
understand
thing.
that concept.
so
Sorry,
cool.
tangent.
Anyway,
Someone just like slapped my hand.
No, it's
No,
really
I like
interesting.
it.
It says,
Interesting.
does this interfere with all students learning L2 in the same order, although sequences appear to be the same?
Wait,
That's
what
the que-
interferes with all students learning L2 in the same order, although sequences? Well, I think we just discussed that.
We just discussed
kind
that,
of like the differences in their L1s.
basically, I would say. So number 5, discuss your case study learner and their language use. Discuss what you are learning about from the theory you're researching. That man is so loud.
That man.
They're-
over here to
I
our
know.
table.
That
We're
man is
on a
officially
train
part of
right
our
now.
group.
Oh, she's in Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, you're close.
Hey.
Poor Sandy. She's not really part. I mean, she is part of it.
I know.
Yeah.
We're discussing our case study learner and their language use. Do you have any input on yours?
I messaged her, but she hasn't gotten back to me yet. So no.
She hasn't gotten back
Oh.
to you? This is Taryn. I'm seeing her tomorrow. I'll yell at her.
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Mike, what are you learning from the theory you're...
Discuss what you were learning from theory. I mean, I'm just learning, I don't know, because basically I'm just challenging that, here, I'm gonna put this over here.
Yeah.
I'm just challenging that, reading is the best way to obtain vocabulary, because she reads all the time and she writes all the time, and
Yeah.
she still feels like her vocabulary is, so we're, trying to figure out other ways. Balance it. But
Yeah. I watched not a documentary, but something like that, and it was talking about just how the children are learning in Nicaragua, learning language just by being with each other, and no one's teaching them language; they're just learning it, and and an adult learned the language and was talking with her, and she started using words that she didn't know. And she was like, what is this word, signing to her. And she's like, I actually don't know how I got this word. I don't know how I got it. It just, they're just creating language, and they don't even know how they're doing it.
I think about, how someone was just table.
Yeah.
I just
I
feel
know.
like staring
And
at the
everyone's
ceiling
Yeah,
at 12
she was
a.m. and
doing,
you're like,
she was
whoa.
doing this thing, and it was sand. She was doing this motion, and the adult was signing to her, what does that mean? She's like, the stuff by the ocean. She's like, sand. She's like, how'd you learn this? And she's like, I don't know how I got it. She doesn't know how she got the word at all. She just,
That's crazy.
yeah.
I mean, I guess we kind of do the same thing. It's not like I don't
I
remember
can't
learning
say-
the word table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you where I learned these words. Wow, I really can't. That's so cool. So I'm realizing I get why she doesn't get it. Why would I understand where I got my language? But
Oh yeah, that is so weird.
yeah, now I'm really. It's I can't tell you where I've learned language except for that one word you just taught me today.
Nonsense.
Yeah, I can tell you that one. But so basically, to me, what that means is I think we're programmed for language, and I think that all we need before the age of 11 or 12, because if you don't learn language past that, that's really damaging. It's hard to even learn ever any language. So as long as it's before that time, all you need is another person. You don't need a pre-made language. You just need the social interaction. So I'm thinking it's obviously super important social interaction. So I feel like that's just kind of something that's it's important to some extent, no matter what, in my mind. So I'm wondering what aids language learning more in social interactions. Is it direct conversation, or is it just activities where you're using language we don't really know? So I'm just keeping track of his language in just a regular activity versus a direct conversation and seeing
That's cool.
what is
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because I feel like social interaction is already I can't study does social interaction of language that's too big.
You're
It's too big.
yeah.
How am I supposed to? Yeah, but Yeah. Anyway, so that's basically the extent of where I am at.
Mine's kind of wishy-washy right now. I'm studying like punctuation and like syntax overlap from the L1 into the L2. And kind of what I wanted to focus on was, so I was talking about the contrastive, the error analysis, which doesn't talk about, it says like, yes, some errors are from the L1, but a lot of errors are just like these developmental stages. And then the contrastive, which is basically saying that no, like almost all the mistakes are from L1 transfer and during L2 acquisition. And Susie wants me to focus it more on like just questions or just this. I want to kind of, I don't know if this is going to be like, I'm going to regret this, but I want to take in the data and actually keep track and find out which errors, like which one is causing errors more. Are these random? Are these developmental? Or are these L1 transfer? And I want to find out which one is happening more, because that could help a professor. Like, should we be working on the stages and just working up normally?
Yeah.
Or should you be focusing on the common mistakes that will happen because of the language that they know already?
Yeah, that's good.
It's going to be a lot of data.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. It's gonna be okay.
Sounds like dedication.
I think remember too, you don't have to provide an answer. You're just like making a platform for further research. That makes it less stressful.
Susie, you hear that? I'm making a platform
for further research.
At the end of your presentation,
So that's that. 100 years from now, they'll be like, based on the foundation,
They'll call it the
research study of like Maria, like whatever. We now have this, so it's like, they build on it. You don't have to. Yeah. We have high expectations for this class.
Oh, good lord.
Go down in history.
This will be documented.
So I'm studying motivation and its role in language acquisition. That's my general topic.
Okay.
But basically, what I'm focusing on is a lot of researchers believe that integrative is more important than instrumental, or more essential than instrumental. And instrumental is like working towards a goal. I kind of explained it last time. Like you want a career, so you learn language.
Yeah.
And then integrative, I've been studying that more because that's kind of what I'm focusing on. Is basically like, it means that you appreciate the culture enough to want to be integrated into it. So you have to like want to get to know the people, and you have to like have some sort of appreciation for it to move forward. So basically, like, this kind of just happened today, and then I was just thinking about it just now, and then like a little bit while I was walking here. But when I first met up with her, we were just chatting about like whatever, and she doesn't really plan on staying here. She plans on going to Europe, but she thinks it's really cool that people around here like to go outside in like the natural world, and like because she was like, "Oh, what'd you do this weekend?" And I was just like, "Oh, camping." And she was like, "Oh, that's so cool! Like, who does that where I live?" And
really,
where'd you say she was from?
China.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
She's from Hong Kong.
well,
Most
there's not probably
foreign
a lot
exchange
of
students I've talked to
nature
that are
nearby.
from different countries in Asia say that it's like a little bit, they're more attracted to like city areas.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
But-
she's been here for like 4 years, so it must have taken, maybe it's taken her some time to really fully, she's like, it's beautiful here, and I want to go I want to go camping, and so I was like,
That's
let's go.
cool.
So I think we're actually going to go sometime.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so she has like, I can tell she's getting like this, as she's living here, she's getting like more of an appreciation for the culture. But the other interesting thing is English is a globalized language. This is something I was reading. And so like, we've really taken it out of context of its culture. So the whole idea of integrative motivation doesn't really make sense anymore, because what
Which
culture are you
context,
integrating into?
And that could be different for even like regional places in the United States.
Wow, that's
too. It's
really
like here compared to like the South. It's like yikes.
Oh yeah, totally different. It was funny too because I was talking to one of the AOAP students, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like here people are so free. Like everyone dyes their hair, and people get piercings and tattoos, and like all these things." I'm like, this is one spot in America. Like there is like a lot of different
Freedom.
cultures here because you dress like this and go to the other side. People are probably going to think that's different, like, I don't know, like, even in my hometown, like, you dye your hair blue, they're probably gonna think you're weird, but here, Yeah, dye your hair blue.
Like,
I mean, there's
in my hometown.
I think blue hair is cool, but I know that back home at my school, people dressed very different. It was like rednecky, like camo, Seaback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
even
was
like
thinking London, maybe.
I think of like here, like everyone wears like Patagonia, and I go home and it's like nobody wears it. Or like on the east side, everyone wears like Carhartt. I'm like, there's no Patagonia. Even just like a small thing like
It's
that.
so different. It's very different.
I showed an accent video to my like partner. I showed her the New York accent because I was trying to like do it, and she was like. So I showed it to her, and she's like, "That is so ugly."
Oh my gosh!
I was like, "Yeah."
Way to go! Just put down those other cultures.
No, I'm like, I like West Coast accent, a little less aggressive.
It's crazy how different everyone talks across the country.
We are known as the
Dude, that's rad, kind of like super rad.
Bellingham, like Northwesterner accent is like known to be their like radio talk show host.
Oh, like Tom.
Really?
I heard that
I've
too.
heard the
This was
opposite.
actually.
She told me that.
I heard it was a desired accent actually for a lot of.
It's comparatively, we definitely have regional stuff. It's fairly standard, but we use things that other people really don't like. Like a lot of Pacific Northwesterners have a vocal fry, and vocal fry is really great on people. Like,
that's more of a California thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean like West Coast in general.
We do.
She says like she's like, you're like up and down like all the time, like because I was like, I think we sound kind of monotone, like in my opinion. She's like, no, like your intonation is
no.
crazy. Yeah,
at least me personally, I'm all over the place.
Oh yeah,
I mean, even just doing that, I was like a lot.
I'm like, oh yeah,
that's
you're
so
right.
funny.
Yeah, and I was like, you like a lot. Like.
So my practicum's in a listening and speaking class, and they have us like sometimes they'll be like, go find a native speaker and have them record them saying these sentences, and it's not until you're like that self-conscious of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? We were doing like. I agree with you. And it's like, what are you doing with that? Like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
What is that
it's
curve?
so weird.
She imitates me sometimes just to let me know. She'll be like she'll say it back to me, and I'm like, oh my god, is that how I sound?
Yeah.
Like, yikes, it's like all the way.
That's so weird.
I was driving around with two AUAP students, like taking them to different grocery stores to get groceries, and like we drove by, and they were like. They just yelled out this word. I did not know what it was. And they were like, McDonald, I can't say it. McDonald's. And I was like, no. I was like,
McDonald's.
Guys, are you talking about McDonald's? And they were like, they just burst out laughing.
Oh my gosh.
I'm driving up there and I'm laughing so hard, like tears are coming.
Oh my
they're trying to say it and they're laughing too. And it's just like.
It's hard. There's a lot of consonants in
Uh-huh.
McDonald's.
That
And
is actually how they say it in Japan, though.
Yeah,
it's because their syntax is consonant, vowel. There has to be a vowel in between every single consonant. So when they take words, they'll take like busubula and they'll like add in vowels in between all the consonants.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Because
I didn't know that. So.
is probably not
Linguistics
pronounceable for them.
But they just like the whole. I mean,
McDonald's.
after that we went for crepes and like did a bunch of random stuff.
And in the beginning,
and like the whole way they would
But
just
that's an
like
I in between.
throw it in. Everyone's
Yeah, like say,
I mean, kind of. It has the sound in there. Yeah.
Like we don't write the but it
Yeah.
does. So I was wondering, but
the C and the D don't really have anything.
this is like kind of unrelated,
You're
but I
right.
was talking to my case study partner last week about. I always say like, yeah, no, yeah, or no, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a California thing too.
She was like, what does that mean? And I had to think about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, if I say
Yeah, no,
yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah. But if
Yeah.
I say like, yeah, no, I say no.
yeah,
No. It's a California. Yeah,
that is
no means no.
hilarious.
No, yeah means yeah.
That
And
is
yeah,
so-
no, yeah.
No,
means
yeah.
We do it all the time now.
Oh
Like,
my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
we do. We say no, yeah, or yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, no,
I go
and
like,
no,
yeah.
I go, yeah,
No.
no, yeah, totally no.
That is so funny. I'm remembering that.
Is that the funniest
It's
thing
so
ever?
weird.
What if you want a tip? It's just like whatever it ends with. So yeah,
That's that's what I
no,
said. I was like, I
is
think
no.
that's what-
no, yeah is yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah is yeah.
No, yeah.
So whatever we end with,
Whoa,
just
whoa.
pretend everything else
Yeah,
is
pretend.
gone.
That is
I can't stop saying
So
it. though, now. I'm
confusing.
just like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
yeah, no, yeah.
like,
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that's you in Spanish. How would you feel?
You know what?
I know.
You know, and you're like, which one? Which one?
No, CC.
I didn't
hang
even
out
think
with you.
about that. I'm sure.
I think
they're so
I would just
cute.
stare at them and be like,
Dude.
Either like so no or yeah.
That is the greatest. I have to remember that.
It's super funny though.
All we have to do now is post a muddy question, and that's it.
Oh.
Post any muddy questions arising in your group. Do we have?
Or
It says post any
We
muddy
didn't.
questions arising.
We
didn't
didn't
do
have
it
one
for
the
the
first
first one.
time. We had one the second time. Did anything come up in our discussion at all?
Is there anything that we have a question about? I can type it right here.
Susie, what do you
Or
think?
actually, should we end the video? I'm just gonna end the video real quick because we don't
Okay.
have to record ourselves with a muddy question.
um,
Bye.